Thanks, John and Anna, for moderating. Thanks, PBS, for hosting. Before I jump in, I want to just take a moment because these debates are an important part of the conversation leading up to November. It matters who we send to the Senate. It matters what they'll focus on. Throughout my time as governor and AG, I've focused on doing what's right for Montana, and that's what this campaign's been all about. My opponent, on the other hand, seems to be focused on Washington politicians like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. After that first debate, I actually had a friend, John from Great Falls, who called and said, good thing it wasn't a drinking game every time that Senator Daines talked about a Washington politician, or he wouldn't have been able to get out of bed the next morning. So I challenged the senator to actually focus this evening on what matters, and that's to Montanans. I know that Montanans would appreciate it. And it's a weeknight after all, so it'll keep John from having one too many. Directly to your question, look, I've argued in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. I want to believe that it's beyond, when I walked in those doors, beyond partisanship and beyond politics. But unfortunately, what we're seeing right now, and this is more or less Senator Daines against himself. 4 years ago, he said there's no way during an election year that we should actually move forward with a nominee for a new Supreme Court position. And this year he's completely flip-flopped on that. So we have to do what we can to take the politics out of the Supreme Court.
We're going to open things up now. This is the open discussion, rebuttals, follow-ups, direct questions from our candidates. And to get it started this time, Governor Bullock, we start with you.
Yeah, I'm running for Senate because I think that Washington ought to work a lot more like Montana. Now, I'd heard from a lot of Montanans all across our state that Senator Daines wasn't working each and every day for us. He's working for the corporations and the special interests. He's a guy that's taken over $2 million of corporate PAC money along the way. During my time as governor, I've actually brought Democrats and Republicans together to make a difference in people's lives. We expanded health care for 90,000 people, saved our rural hospitals. At the same time, Senator Daines has been trying to strip that health care away. We cut taxes for our smallest of businesses. Senator Daines has been focusing on the largest companies and the wealthiest among us. We've kept our public lands in public hands, while Senator Daines has been siding with the wealthy out-of-state interests along the way, taking about $800,000 in real estate dollars along the way. So I'll always fight for what's best in Montana. That's what I've always done.
Senator Daines.
Well, it's hard to keep a straight face talking about the dollars in a campaign. Governor Bullock raised and then ran an organization that raised $30 million of dark money, took $3 million from Big Pharma. And regarding the corporate PACs, let me tell you how that's working here. The liberal senators that are supporting Steve Bullock back in Washington, D.C. are taking corporate PAC dollars and they're directing it right to Steve Bullock's campaign through their leadership PACs. That's how it works. So the bottom line is this, coming back to the Supreme Court question, Montanans want to have a United States Supreme Court justice that will protect our Montana way of life, protect our Second Amendment, to protect the out-of-control radical groups that are litigating timber projects, that are litigating issues like the Keystone Pipeline, because we need to keep these natural resource jobs going in Montana. That helps provide jobs, and the justices that Steve Bullock would support with Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden would be far left justices. We cannot let it happen to our country.
Governor Bullock.
You know, going back to the court and thinking about that day that I stood in front of the justices, really wanting to believe that justice is blind, like every Montanan wants that to be the case. But again, this is Steve Daines against Steve Daines. 4 years ago, he said, let the people decide. Let the people vote before we actually appoint a new justice. 4 years later, he completely changes it. I don't know if it has anything to do with the week after this election, the Supreme Court will be hearing a case that could strip away coverage for pre-existing conditions, like the senators tried to do his whole time in D.C., that could eliminate Medicaid expansion and get rid of that health care and the benefits for our economy. So I do desperately, and I want to hear from Montanans about how to take the politics out of the Supreme Court. I think Montanans expect that out of all of the courts, and that's what we need to get to.
Final word to Senator Daines.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what Montanans want. They want to have a Supreme Court justice that will ensure that they uphold the Constitution, that they know their proper role is not to make the laws, but to interpret the laws and make sure they're in accordance with the Constitution. This is one of the biggest decisions and votes a United States Senator makes. I'm grateful that I've stood behind Justice Gorsuch, Justice Kavanaugh, and now I'll be standing behind this amazing nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. We've got to have justices that understand that they can't threaten our way of life here in Montana. Here's what's at stake. Here's what's on the ballot right now. It's the Second Amendment. In fact, it was the front page of the Great Falls Tribune last week that said Justice Ginsburg's vacancy puts the Second Amendment on center stage. For those Montanans that care about the Second Amendment, know that Steve Bullock has an F from the NRA. He called for a ban on semi-automatic guns. The Second Amendment's at stake right now with whoever's put on the United States Supreme Court.